Hey, Southeast Missouri sports fans. Enjoy the show and want to take it on the go? You can find every episode on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or YouTube. Tune in as they air by searching SEMO Sports Zone wherever you may be listening. Welcome to the SEMO Sports Zone presented by A-Corp Sports. Today is Wednesday, January 23rd. David, how are we doing today?
Cold, very cold, very cold. Ready for spring. Ready for warm weather. And but we still got a lot of basketball.
Oh yeah, but you want to talk about wind chill? Geez.
Yeah, it's a little chilly out. And everybody's apparently sick. That's not good. We got games getting canceled because of sickness, and that's not what you want. But we're in the dog days of January, I guess you could say. Kind of the it kind of just drags along right around here, and it'll pick back up about here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I mean, for the biggest thing is like school closings. Like I didn't even think it was getting that bad. It's just like a couple games getting canceled. That's one thing, but just having full on schools just saying, hey, we're all too sick, can't come to school.
Yeah, it's never good when you got schools closed for illness. So so that's something to look out for. A lot of these games are being played by some kids that are probably not 100%, and you kind of have to take that into consideration some. But this is a sick season, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about some of the games that we did get to catch. So first game I've got on the list is Cape Central and Scott City. Ended that game 53-51.
Yeah, that was a great game. I know Cape Central did have some issues with some kids being out, but most of their main guys were there, and came down to the last shot, and just a really nice. Rivers missed a layup. Edwards was able to stick it back in for the win, but two good teams going at it. I was impressed with Scott City. Mm-hmm. I thought Watson, man, he had a great game for them. Just a really good basketball game. Cape Central was able to pull it out, but Scott City's a good team, and it didn't change my impression of them by them losing by 2 points to a good Cape Central team. So, the pace. Again, Cape Central was slowing it down and not, they were trying to play a lot slower, and that's just the way they're going to play this year. And, Scott City, I think, got caught in that a little bit because they like to be a little more up-tempo. But, I thought it was a very good basketball game.
Yeah, and I kind of could tell, like, from the very start of the game, as soon as both teams were on the court, you could just see the size difference a little bit. And it's just like, okay, is that going to be the most major factor in it? I don't think it was. What I do think, Scott City made a lot of mistakes in the first half that probably could have rectified a lot of things. One, I thought this game was going to go in overtime. I was so convinced. I was like, all right, these final seconds, there's no way Cape makes a shot. And then, well, I mean, that's just the way the ball bounces. But, Scott City, what I saw from them was like a lack of rebounding in the first half, especially as maybe it's just part of their up-tempo play, but they wouldn't stay to the basket. They would just assume they'd miss the shot and then not try and recover. And I feel like you could have easily gotten maybe 4 or 6 points out of the first half more than you did.
Yeah, they were, typically I think they like to send some guys out and run out a little bit. But, when you're playing Cape Central and the size that they have inside, I mean, they're monsters inside with Edwards and Goliath in there. And, those two guys are great rebounders, and Mills can rebound as well. So, I mean, they're tough to rebound against. You're going to just have to send as many guys as you can to the glass. And, Watson, while he's a bigger guy, I think he's 6'6", but he's not a great rebounder. So I think that, Scott City rebounding is one of the things that's not really one of their big strengths, especially when you're going up against a team that it is a big strength for, like Cape Central.
Yeah, but if they played this game 10 times, I think, it could be pretty even 5-5.
5-5, 6-4 one way or the other. So, yeah, but very evenly matched game, and I'm glad they played it. And, then Cape Central didn't get to play the next night against New Madrid because of illness. I'm not sure which one. I think both teams were sick. I think both of them were just like, let's just go ahead and try to reschedule this for later. But yeah, so I'm glad they were able to play this game. It was a really good game, though. And I think Scott City gets more out of this game than Cape Central, just because they need opponents like that if they're going to make a run in Class 3. Yeah,
I think playing them this close, too, just kind of really toughens you up. I mean, it's more of a tragic loss for you at that point, just to be like, well, that sucks that we lost this, that we definitely could have won it. But I think it's good motivation, too, that it's like, well, that you can play a team, that much bigger than you, and in school district and in size and play them that close and take that with you going further.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I think they came away, not happy that they lost, but happy the way they competed and the way they played. And I think there's I think there's a lot to build on there.
Any other games on Monday that you have listed down?
Yeah, the Sikeston, I guess Warren Central, supposed to be Callaway County. Callaway County apparently won the state title in Kentucky on Saturday, which I didn't know was a thing, but apparently in Kentucky they have, especially with the smaller classes, they have like class state titles, and then they play all for one big state title in March or something like that. So I was not aware of this, and apparently Callaway County played late Saturday night, had a big travel day on Sunday, and really didn't want to play. So they got Warren Central to play Sikeston. Warren Central was was 14-1 coming in, was a good team.
So comparable.
Yeah, was a good team. I don't think they were as good as Callaway County. I know other people have said that, they're better, but I don't know. They didn't have the. It didn't seem like they had quite the talent, but and so they had the lead at Sikeston at half, and Sikeston came out in the second half and just blew them out. It was just a really nice game. Especially Sikeston didn't find out till an hour before the practice on Sunday that they were even going to be playing this team, so they really didn't have time to prepare. I'm sure that Warren Central didn't have time to prepare either. So it was just kind of it was just a game where two teams just got to get after a little bit, and it was a good win. Been nice to have seen them play Callaway, but a nice win for Sikeston, and then something for them to build on. Again, they beat a good team, and that's what we said they needed to do, and they've done that twice in a row. Played real aggressive on defense. Really went on. They switched to a zone in the second half and really caused Warren Central some problems, and that. That's kind of what Sikeston used to be known for, and they went back to that and did really well with it. So we'll see how what they do with that, going into the future.
Do you think, as far as practicing and everything going further, do you think Sikeston's being able to make those like split second adjustments like they need to now?
Yeah, for years, all they played was that that little zone, they'll match up zone. They would press and fall back into their zone. For the last couple of years, they've really moved more to man. This year, especially, they played majority man to man, and them to be able to switch back into that zone, which got them so much success, for years. That's good for them, and it gives them another element there that makes it tougher on their opponent, because you don't know what defense you're going to see from them, and they get real aggressive in that zone, getting some passing lanes, get some easy run out layups, and so. That's that's just something you keep in your back pocket and use when you do switch things up.
Yeah, and expanding your depth at this point too, I think is going to be really important going into postseason for Sikeston. So that you can do all that. Sikeston is becoming a team that is so consistent, and I think those couple games that they got punched in the mouth, I think that's. We talked about it when it happened when they lost against Farmington, that they kind of needed to lose that game in a bit just to get those corrections made. Yeah. I feel like they've really excelled since then. Yeah,
toughness and attitude in practice. They've been focusing on toughness and attitude, and that's something that they needed at the end of last year, and it's working this year for them. So right now they're playing really well again. After that little blip against Farmington, so we'll see how they do moving forward.
Let's move on to some Tuesday games. Campbell took on Crothersville at Crothersville, finished that game 82-75.
Yeah, what a game that was. Campbell trailed in that game multiple times by 12 points. They were down, I believe, 6 points, with 20-something seconds left or 30 seconds left, something like that. And we're able to come back and get it tied, send it to overtime. We're down 5 right off the bat in overtime, and was able to come back and pull away. Crothersville just didn't make the plays they needed to make down the stretch in regulation, miss some free throws, turn the ball over a little bit. Did the same thing in overtime, and that's just not going to win you any games. But these are really good teams. Mm-hmm. And this Campbell team, they just didn't quit. Kellums is a really, really good player. They just did a really nice job of just getting after Crothersville, being aggressive, getting up and down the floor. A lot of, once they got a rebound, they were sprinting to the other end. They were really trying to push the pace, which kind of surprised me against Crothersville, who likes to go fast. So it was just a really fun game to watch, and a tough loss for Crothersville. But those are two teams that could see each other again in that Bootheel Conference tournament.
Yeah, as soon as I saw the score for this, I kind of just told myself, I was like, what a great win for Campbell at that point. I didn't get to see the game live, obviously, but for them, I feel like they've kind of been a sleeper team this season. Not judging off their record or anything like that, but I don't feel like a lot of people have been talking about Campbell enough. So I think this is a very good win for them. It's kind of getting you known at this point. Like you said, postseason is going to be a stretch. So
yeah, that Class 2 District 1 down there.
That's going to be tough.
Good luck. Whoever comes out of there is going to be definitely battle tested. That's going to be a brutal district down there. And Crothersville, again, I think they're setting themselves up to do well in districts as well. They played a tough schedule, and they continue to play tough teams, and that's just going to benefit them come come the district tournament. And this was a tough game. I mean, this Campbell team is for real. They're a really good team. Have good players up and down. They can just score. And I like seeing them a little bit, improve defensively a little bit. But, man, they can just score. And so that's a great win for Campbell, I thought.
Let's move on. I've got Bernie at Bloomfield. Finished that game 44-38. I have a couple things to talk about on this game.
I'm going to let you handle most of that. I didn't get any eyes on that game. I did see the score. I knew that it was early. It was, I think Bloomfield kind of had them a little bit early, and then I think Bernie came back and won it late. So I don't know much about that. It's kind of what I thought. I thought it would be a game kind of like they played Dexter, where it was kind of a slower pace game. Bloomfield's going to drag you down into that 40 to 30-ish type game. But Bernie's tough. They're a tough team.
Yeah, for the most part, you're exactly right. That's exactly what Ben Sindel did. He slowed the game way down, which, against a Bernie team that's already with Jason Long and how he operates, going slow pace defensively. I mean, that's two teams that are kind of excelling at the same strategy. What Bernie didn't do was shoot a single three-pointer all night, or at least make one.
Wow.
So no 3 points. John Aycock, though, either 31 or 32 points out of the 44.
Yeah, and I can see that, because if they're not hitting from outside, I mean, they don't have many options inside, and he's their main option. But he's somebody that you can really go to and really let him go to work, and he just continues to get better every time I see him. I mean, he's just getting better and better, and so good for him. I mean, Bloomfield, that's a tough matchup for Bloomfield inside with him for sure, and that's that sounds like it's a good win from Bernie, and they get to turn around and play each other again in the conference tournament here next week.
Yeah, I am really surprised, though, that not that I would say Bernie's a 3-point team, but not to make a single three the entire game is just kind of like, whoa, what happened there?
I would say that is surprising to me, because they with Hobgood and some of their other guys, I mean,
like Hobgood, like being such a key factor against that. For that win against Dexter, too, making those clutch threes at the right time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it is, I hate to say it, but it is kind of a letdown game for Bernie, because and Dexter as well, whenever they play Puxco, it doesn't matter, because that game gets you put so much into that rivalry game that the next game is just not going to
kind of deflating.
Yeah, it's not going to match that intensity. It just will never match that intensity, and you would love for it to, but these are 15, 16, 17-year-old kids, and they can't match that intensity night in, night out. And it's just not going to happen. So I can see where that their intensity probably wasn't there, but at the same time, and we said it, on our last pod, that you can't sleep on Bloomfield. You cannot go into a game against Bloomfield and just not bring your best game, because they're a team that can catch you. And so I think Bernie's fortunate to get out of there with a win.
Yeah, and I think Bloomfield's biggest detriment right now is that they just don't have that many playmakers.
Yeah. And just no scoring. I mean, other than Underwood, just no scoring.
Yeah,
and that's a shame, because they play so darn hard. It's just they just don't have the scores to match it.
Yeah, and Ben Sindel's a young coach, and I feel like he is pretty consistently out coaching a lot of teams. But if you just don't have the playmakers that can get you those points, you really just can't win those games.
Yeah. They need some confidence. There's some of those guys that can score, I think, that just aren't confident in themselves to take some shots that they need to take.
Well, Bloomfield's been down for a while. And I think you really just need that, like you said, get some confidence. You're a decent team when like the stretch comes down to it. Do you think they're going to make some more noise in Stoddard County than you think?
Well, I mean,
typically
they play Bernie again, and Bernie just beat them by 6. I mean, they're going to need the same type of performance, and you're going to need to make some shots there. But there's nothing that's going to surprise me in this county tournament, nothing at all. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I mean, I would not be surprised to see them pull an upset, and it wouldn't be surprised to see them go 2 and out either. I mean, who knows? This county tournament is going to be wide open. Yeah,
I mean. Well, for Bloomfield, don't give John Aycock a size mismatch at this point. You gotta give him the appropriate size to keep him locked down. You got to make sure he can't score 31 points a game.
Yeah, it looks like they played pick your poison, and it looked like it almost worked.
Yeah. All right. Well, you mentioned Puxico and Dexter, so let's go ahead and talk about Puxico and Dexter.
Boy, that was a fun game, wasn't it?
No.
That game was tough to watch. Tough to watch. I mean, either team played well. I didn't think, I thought there were some good things. I don't want to be just all negative. There were some good things. I thought Dexter did a good job on Burchard. He only had 1 point. He might, we heard he may be sick, and I know that there's a lot of that going around.
Yeah.
So that very well could be the case. But I thought Dexter did a nice job on him. Again, Dexter can't close. They have the lead with like 3 minutes left in the game and end up losing by 10. I'm like, it's just a definition of not being able to close right there. But so many missed shots, so many just bad turnovers both ways. Just not impressed with either team in the game, and it was just one of those games. Just was not pretty to watch.
Yeah, and if this is a blip on the radar for Puxico, I mean, hey, that is what it is. You make your corrections and you move on. It kind of makes me worry about how they're going to, if they end up meeting Charleston, how they're going to play that game, because that's going to be tough. I am so frustrated with Dexter. I am sick of watching the same mistakes week in and week out. So because they're the most consistently inconsistent team I've ever seen. But I'm going to read a couple stats because Puxico did not play a particularly good game either. Dexter was 13 for 45 on field goals. Puxico was 15 for 63.
And right there, I mean, Puxico should not be out rebounding Dexter to the margin where they shoot 60 shots and 17 more shots or something like that.
Oh, let's get to rebounds. Yeah. Offensive rebounds, Puxico had 29 and Dexter had 5.
Yeah, and there's your game right there. I mean, if you want to look at it, and the scary thing is Puxico didn't take advantage of a lot of those. I mean,
No.
They missed a lot of little gimmies underneath and just couldn't score them.
Yeah, and I mean, my thought process through that out the entire game was, the better team in this game won. Dexter should have won it by 10. If you were going to have a chance to beat Puxico, would have been this game. That they just can't capitalize on anything, and it is so frustrating to watch.
Yeah, that's twice against Puxico that they've had the game. They had the lead in the fourth quarter and couldn't close. Dexter just has not been able to close most of the games this year, and it's just we talked about it last pod. I mean, this is now 5 or 6 games now that they've had the lead in the fourth quarter and just aren't able to finish it out. And you've got to be able to do that to be a good team. And, Dexter just has not been able to do that right now.
Yeah. And I don't know what the disconnect is. I don't know if it's something. Turnovers is a big thing, but their starting 5 is and there's no consistency there either. Everybody seems like they're kind of playing their own game, and, they've got playmakers obviously, but it's not there.
Yeah, a lot of turnovers, a lot of one-on-ones at times that you don't like to see. But the turnovers is what gets me. A lot of times they're kind of unforced turnovers, just sloppy with the ball and just stuff that you really want them to improve on, and they just have not through the course of the year yet.
Yeah, but all credit to Puxico. Jet Hancock had a pretty good game, 17 points, 12 rebounds. But Kason Long, 16 rebounds,
Yeah, dominated the glass. I mean, he just dominated, and he's not, it's not like he's 6'8" and can jump out of the gym. It's just he just outworked Dexter, and again, there could be some sickness going around, and because the rebounding disadvantage was not that big in the first game. You don't know what's going on, but at the same time, in this game, I mean, he dominated and looked great doing it. Like to see him finish a little bit more around the rim, but rebounding wise, he just outworked everybody.
Yeah, for Puxico, this was it was an okay win at this point. For Dexter, I don't even know what you take away from it and what you try to fix, but it's something that obviously you've been working on for the past couple weeks. I'd say keep with it, but I don't know. Maybe some things have to change.
Yeah, for Puxico, it's one of those games. You're not always going to have your A game. You got to get out of there with a win when you don't, and that they were able to do that. They were able to find a way to win late, even though they didn't bring their best, and that's what you really look for in a good team. And so hopefully they can, get better and build off that. And again, we don't know. There may be sickness going around. There may be, never know. There's a lot of reasons. Tuesday night game in the BEC where it was, half packed. It's not exactly a electric atmosphere, and so that kind of might play into it a little bit too.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on. Poplar Bluff at Jackson, 47-58.
Well, congratulations to Cole Deck, got 1,000 points. Good for him.
A lot of people are entering that 1,000-point mark.
Seeing a lot of that this year right now, but good for him. And, Jackson is what we thought they would do. That's exactly what I thought they would do, is beat them 10, 15 points. And they did. 11 straight for Jackson. They get to play Cape Central on Friday. We'll see. I would assume that they would be the favorite. I know that Cape Central is going to be a little ticked off in that rivalry game since they lost the Christmas tournament. They think they're better. But right now, Jackson's the best team in the area, in my opinion. I mean, they've won 11 straight and just do what they need to do to win. Yeah.
I mean, for Jackson, like, how good do you have to feel as a team at that point that your program is operating? It's like so refined at this point.
Yeah, I mean, they're just rolling on, and good for them. I'm anxious to see that game on Friday, though. We'll see how they play against Cape Central, but hopefully Cape Central's healthy. But good. I mean, it was just a good, solid win for Jackson, and what we expected.
Always love watching that Cape Central and Jackson game, though. That's the broadcast we're going to be doing Friday night on A Corp Sports, so that should be a really fun one. Moving on, Kennett at East Prairie, 61-76.
Yeah, East Prairie pulled away in the second quarter in this one. Markham had a great first half, had 19 in the first half, finished with 24. Johnson, I think, had 18. Just a typical East Prairie game. They were able just to pull away. Flakes, had a good game for Kennett, but they kind of, Dyson Watson really never got going. He only had 15. And again, their scoring is very limited. Mm-hmm. And when East Prairie gets out in transition and up and down the floor, Kennett just can't match that scoring. And so East Prairie was able to pull away in this one. But East Prairie is a good team, and Kennett just still struggling to kind of find that extra score, I think, to get them over the hump. Because, they can match you a little bit, but once you go too deep, you got to find that third guy, I think.
Yeah, for Kennett, I mean, they're a team that I like to consider frisky, but needs an identity, and that's just kind of where they're at. East Prairie, on the other hand, they have their identity. They know their scores. Markham and Johnson, that's their bread and butter right now. They're going to keep going with that, which, hey, it's working for you. So,
yeah. And I mean, East Prairie's playing well right now. They had the little blip in the Christmas tournament, but they're playing better. And we'll see. They did take a tough loss to Scott City the other night, but we'll see. I mean, they've got several tough games left, and it'll be interesting to see how they match up.
Next game, I have this on the listing just because it's a Stoddard County matchup. Woodland at Bell City finished that game 78-43.
Yeah, Woodland just took them to the woodshed, and this Woodland team is rolling. Somehow they got the 2 seed in the county tournament. I don't know how, but
we'll talk about it.
Yeah, but they're rolling. It's just a good game for them. Kind of, they're just taking care of business, and they're not even messing around with some of these county teams. I mean, they fell behind to Richland a little bit, but ended up pulling away late, and they're just not even playing around. They're just going full speed and just not even batting an eye.
Yeah, and we're probably going to talk about it in the next couple minutes, but I just don't foresee any team right now. Maybe Scott City would give them trouble again, but Woodland just seems so consistent and so good. I just can't see another team really beating them right now.
Yeah, they're playing well, kind of on cruise control, and they're gonna be tested over the course of the season, but I want to see them tested more than what they have been, but we'll see. But right now they're just on cruise control.
Let's do top 10s, then we'll talk about upcoming games, then we'll talk about Stoddard County. So, David, who's your number one on top 10?
We just talked about them, the Woodland Cardinals. They're the again, I think they're playing better than any small school around, and I think I hope they're going to be state ranked in the next poll. I think they should have been the top seed in the county tournament. Maybe I'm just seeing something that other people aren't, but I think they're a really good team, and I think they deserve to be top on my list for sure.
Yep, number one for me. My number two have taken Scott City.
Mine as well. Here we go again.
Okay, well, I took Scott City. So this was my debate. Scott City, I was going to keep at 3, not moving up or down, just because they played Cape Central so close, but they did lose that game. Then I watched Puxco play Dexter.
Yeah.
And I feel like Scott City is just the better team at that point.
Yeah, just the eye test between the two games just showed me that I thought Scott City is a better team. And that was my thinking is just, there's just the eye test. And Scott City looks like they're a better team. And I thought if they played, I think Scott City would win that game double figures. So that's just me personally. And And so that's why I got them in number 2.
Yep. At this point, I just agree with everything you said. My number 3, taking Puxico.
That's my number 3 as well. I mean, I'm not going to have. I mean, I still think they're a good team.
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't think
absolutely.
But you just like I said, the eye test. I've got Scott City better than Puxico.
I feel like Puxico needs to make some adjustments. Definitely with their team composition at this point. Well, not like they're starting 5 or anything like that, but you need to win by better margins at this point.
Yeah, I need to see them play a really good game, and after seeing them, we'll see them in the county tournament next week. If they make a run in that could change.
Oh yeah,
that could change it a lot. Because again, this may not have been the best. It wasn't their A game against Dexter for sure, and they slide a spot from that, but that happens. I mean, you can slide right back up by playing well.
My number 4, I've taken Risco.
Same here.
I think Risco's still just kind of doing what Risco does.
Yeah.
Quality of opponents right now is kind of down, I would say, but they're going to have competition.
Yeah, they handled Cooter. I mean, and that's their biggest challenge, I think, in the Tri-County, and they beat them by 30,
something like that.
So yeah, I mean, they're just on cruise control as well, and there's just not much they're going to get out of that Tri-County conference this year as far as an opponent. It's going to be outside of the Tri-County where they're going to be challenged a little bit. So they're kind of in that county portion of their thing, so they should roll, I would assume.
All right, so 5 through 10. This is where I think it's either going to get different for both of us, because I was kind of scrambling to do the math in my head of just like, where do I put teams?
Yeah.
So my number 5, I've taken Campbell.
That's mine as well. Campbell, that was a big win over Crothersville.
Big win.
And their only loss they've got 2 losses, but the one that obviously they lost in the Riverbend, but the Hayti is the one that kind of sticks out that I saw. And Hayti hit everything under the sun. They played out of their minds.
Just
that
a
game.
perfect game.
And I keep running through my head. If they play that game again, I don't think Hayti scores like that. They don't hit as many shots as they hit. So I went ahead and went Campbell there because Campbell's earned it. They played some tough games and beat some tough teams.
Yeah, exactly what I'm thinking. And not to say that just because, not to spoil it, but South Pemiscot's my number 6.
My number 6 is Crothersville. They were pretty even with Campbell. If I'm going to have Campbell at 5 and they go to overtime and it was a little bit closer than 7 points. I mean, it was a 1 possession game under a minute to play in overtime. So, I mean, I'm going to keep them right there. I think Crothersville's a good team, and they just missed a couple of free throws. So I think they're a really good team.
I take South Pemiscot just because I think they're still consistently good. I know they've taken a loss yesterday in Arkansas. I don't know what the score was for that.
It was 73. Hang on, I've got the score here. It was the official score, I think, by what I've read, is the official 71, South Pemiscot 53. Riverside actually scored the 671, but you read everything on social media, it's the officials because that's the 18-point difference, I'm sure.
Which, hey, I mean, I've heard some Arkansas bias towards things, but I'm also in the field of you can never say that officials won you a game.
I get that. I get tired of blaming the officials. Officials don't make up 18 points in a game. I mean, it just doesn't happen. And you've got to adjust. You're not always going to get the calls. You've got to go, and it's not just South Pem. It's a lot of teams. Whenever they lose, I hear it a lot. The officials weren't fair to us or whatever. Those officials don't care what team you are, where you're from. They're just out there just doing a job. Some days it goes your way, some days it doesn't. You just have to adjust as a team. And in this game, Riverside's a very good team, and South Pem got them the first time. I'm sure they were very motivated to beat South Pem the second time. So, good for Riverside and good for South Pem playing these games, going to Arkansas and playing these games, tough games. Good for them.
Well, I took them as number 6 just because they're playing such a right now tough back-to-back schedule.
Yeah,
it feels like they're playing every single night. So I've taken South Pem 6 and I've taken Crothersville 7, which I know seems weird since Crothersville just beat South Pem, but I feel like that's a really gassed South Pem that just beat Hayti.
Yeah.
So I can understand any disagreements with that.
I get you. I get you. I've got Charleston as my number 7. I think they're just playing really well right now. I know they lost to Massac in the Superman Classic. Tough to beat Massac over there in that when you get the home school, the gym's packed. And Massac's a very good team over there. And that's a great tournament. If anybody ever had a chance to go over there and watch that, especially the Friday and Saturday games, it's a great tournament, but tough to get to. But it's a great tournament, and it just Charleston just kind of just ran out of gas there at the end of the game there. But I still got them as my number 7 because I think they are playing really well. I don't think there's many teams around here that would beat Massac, so I'm going to have them as my number 7.
My number 8, I've taken Hayti.
My number 8 is South Pemiscot. And just for the fact of, they lost to Riverside and all these teams are jumbled in there together. I mean, you have in South Pem at 6 or what have you. I mean, I completely, see that argument. Absolutely. I'm not dying on a hill for South Pem, being 6 or 8 or, all these teams to me are jumbled in. I think they're a really good basketball team.
Seems like whatever loss they take, they just make back up the next week.
Yeah. It's just, all these teams are kind of beating each other in the Bootheel and just knocking each other off here and there. They know each other so well. It's kind of tough to judge sometimes.
So for my number 9, I've taken Charleston, probably for all the reasons that you said. Maybe they should be higher up on my list, but at the same time, they started out so slow, but as they're building into postseason, they're just getting better and better. They're like that little engine that could at this point that started so slow, but now it's going downhill and it's really picking up speed.
Yeah, I do want to say Charleston did reschedule that Sykeston game. That's going to be at the 6-man shootout on February 8th. That'll be the last game of the night there. So they did reschedule that game. For me, my number 9 is Hayti. I really like Hayti. They're really good, and I was like, how are they number 9 on my board here? But they are, and I don't know. There's not much separation between 5 and they beat the number 5 team, and I could see me slotting them at number 5.
Yeah, I feel like for Hayti right now, consequences just like you're playing a lot of teams that I don't want to call them lesser teams, but at the same time you're hanging about 30 on everybody you're playing over the past week. So
yeah,
that's kind of a tougher draw for them. But hey. Yeah, you're a good team, obviously. And then my number 10, I've taken East Prairie.
My number 10, I took Bernie. I loved what they did against Dexter. I didn't love what they did against Bloomfield, but again, I didn't see that game. I just saw the score. I still go back to the fact that they beat East Prairie without Hobgood. And so I'm like thinking, well, maybe if they play with Hobgood, they'd win by more. East Prairie wasn't playing their best. I don't know. It was a coin flip, and I went Bernie.
Yeah, Bernie is basically my – They got my votes, like they were just right behind East Prairie on my list.
East Prairie was right there. East Prairie and Richland too. Richland. I want to get Richland in my top 10, but I just don't see them. Right now they just haven't gotten that win that they need.
So, I bet that team's so frustrated.
Yeah,
not with us. Well, maybe with us, but just in general.
With me, I think for sure. But
I think in general, Richland's kind of frustrated of just like perception of their team and just kind of their own performance at this point. Because I feel like, to me, Richland is kind of got this Dexter syndrome of just like, I see glimmers of the good team you are, but you can't finish out a game.
Yeah, they've got a tough game against Leopold, I believe. I don't know if it's Thursday or Friday. I've seen it on both schedules, this Thursday and Friday. But that's probably for the top seed, I would think, in their Class 1 District 2, I believe it is. So I'm not sure if it's Thursday or Friday.
I've seen it on Friday, but I'm not sure now either.
I think on Richland's it's on Misha it's Thursday, and on Leopold's it's Friday. So I don't know which is which. I know they play a night coming up, and whoever wins that game, I think will get the upper hand in for that top seed in that district. So I'm going to have some eyes on that game because I do want to see how that Leopold team. I don't know much about them. I know their coach. And so I'm anxious to see how they match up.
Any changes to your classes 4 through 6?
No, mine's all the same. Jackson, Sykeston, Cape Central, Notre Dame, Poplar Bluff.
I've moved Sykeston back up to number 1, but I just think that's just because that Farmington game was maybe just a blip on the radar for them.
I like keeping that motivation there for them as having them as my number 2.
Hey, if it works, it works.
Jackson's going to have to lose. To lose that spot. Even though I think Sykeston probably is a better team. That loss to Farmington and Jackson beating Farmington, and Jackson just continues to win. Right now I'm going to keep Jackson as my number 1.
Oh, yeah. Stir the pot pick. I like that.
I like it.
All right. Let's talk about some upcoming games. You already mentioned that Richland Leopold game, Friday or Thursday, whenever it is. That, like you said, I don't know much about Leopold either. I'd like to see Richland perform. So.
Yeah, I know that Leopold during the Christmas tournament and stuff, there was there was some talk coming out about, they think they've got a chance to win districts. And I really have thought since the beginning that this is Richland's district to lose. Mm-hmm. And, Bell City might play, if they get their big guy back, they might because they match up real well with Richland and have beaten them already. I thought that they might, be in the mix there. Leopold, I really didn't pay much attention to, hadn't really heard much about. I see them. They continue to win. They lost in double overtime on Tuesday night to Meadow Heights, but again, I don't know anything about Meadow Heights. So I'm just kind of curious. I've heard, I've heard talk about Leopold. I know that they're coached by Jimmy Lincoln, who used to be at Richland. So we'll see how the two teams match up.
Some drama there.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll just see how they match up and see what Leopold brings to the table. It'll be at Leopold, so Richland's going to have to go on the road. So it'll be a tough test for the Rebels, and we'll see how it matches up.
Do you think that first loss to Bell City has really just continued to haunt Richland in any way?
Absolutely. I go back to it several times, and really their second game they played them, they didn't. I thought, well, if they come back and blow them out, it was just a blip on the screen, but they really didn't. Bell City really played with them. Richland was able to pull away, but and there's been nothing to show me. I've seen Richland play. And Richland's a good team, but they're just not a team that I think is just a team that you can just write in ink that they're moving on out of this district. I think this district's a little more competitive than what I thought it was going to be when the year started. So, and that's why I'm really looking at this Leopold game to see what this Leopold team brings.
Let's move on. South Pemiscot at Campbell.
Again, Bootheel teams just beating each other up, and that's a fun conference this year. They've got a lot going on down there, and this game will be a lot of fun. It's at Campbell. Campbell's a tough place to play. South Pem, like you said, they've been playing an NBA schedule. They're playing just pretty much every night, every other night. It's a they've been playing a lot since,
and not easy games either.
Yeah, since January, and they're not playing cupcakes. They're playing tough teams. So I'm anxious to see how this it could work in their benefit, that they get to really get to be clicking, and then as they kind of slow down in February and play the 2 games a week like they have been, or like most teams do, and I think but. This is a tough game, and Campbell's coming off a tough game against Crothersville, so it's not like they're coming in. Both of these teams coming in off tough games, so be anxious to see how this plays out. It's going to be a great game, though.
Yeah, I think it shows how tough this conference is, just because like you said, Hayti beat Campbell. If Campbell beats South Pemiscot, that's going to be.
Yeah, we talked about the Stoddard County Tournament. This Bootheel Conference tournament is just going to be every bit as brutal. It's a tough conference, and there's a lot of good teams in it. And so who knows who's going to get the top seed in that thing.
I hesitate to mention this game just because it's probably going to get canceled. Twin Rivers at Portageville. Yeah,
Portageville, I know canceled school before we went on here and started recording, so I don't know if that game will be happening or not. I probably would think it would not. If you got enough kids canceling for your whole school, I doubt they play that game. If they did, though, that's a game that just a battle between those two teams. They're pretty evenly matched, and being at Portageville, that's a long drive for Twin Rivers down there. I would probably favor Portageville maybe just a little bit if they were healthy enough. Just because it's such a long drive. But again, Twin Rivers beat them by 20. That wouldn't shock me either. Nothing shocks me anymore, I don't think, with some of these teams. Because they're so evenly matched. You just don't know.
Yeah, I would give it to Twin Rivers if they do hypothetically play this game, but I'm just basing that off of, how much they've improved since the Christmas tournament. The record's pretty good, but
yeah, last time I picked Twin Rivers, they got beat by 150 to Richland. So I'm not going to be picking Twin Rivers anytime soon.
And hey, Portageville's improved from what I've seen.
They've gotten better. They played Zenith tough last night. And again, they did have some sickness in that game. And so, and they were still able to play a good Zenith team tough. So, we'll see how that one would play out if they do play it.
All right, some Friday games. I've got this one listed down, but I don't think it's going to be much of a game. Sykeston at Kennett.
Yeah, I think Sykeston should go down there and just take care of business. I don't see any way that Kennett can match Sykeston scoring, and I don't think they can slow it down enough. I don't think they have the ball handlers to slow it down enough to do anything in this game. I think Sykeston rolls in this one and at turbo clock in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to be the situation that Kennett was in against Jackson and playing them close.
No. Jackson just plays a style that you can play with. And Sykeston, when they get out and run and get out and are get aggressive and stuff, it takes a certain team that can play with that style. Either that or you get blown out.
Yeah, and I mean we've seen Sykeston play like Cape Centrals. Like once they get rolling, they just play with their food.
Yeah, and you're just it's just a tough matchup for Kennett.
All right, moving on. A game that I expect Dexter to win, and if they lose it, I'm going to be kind of mad about it. Dexter at New Madrid County Central.
Yeah, I'm going to be at that game on the radio. We'll see. New Madrid. I mean, you would think that Dexter would be the favorite. New Madrid still not playing that well. They've got a lot of illness there. I'm assuming that game's going to happen. I know that their game on Tuesday was canceled, but again, a lot of illness going through the school there. So I don't know. I don't know what to expect from this game. I don't know what Dexter's going to bring. I would think that Dexter. I think they've lost like 6 or 7 straight to New Madrid. I mean, it's a chance to break that streak, but they've lost 6 or 7 to New Madrid. Some of those teams from Dexter were good. I mean, obviously those New Madrid teams are really good, but still, I don't know. Dexter never plays well there. Just never plays well there, and so I'm not. I don't know. I don't have a pick in this game. Just hope it's a good game.
I mean, Dexter needs a win in general at this point.
And New Madrid's just coming off that win against Cairo, and they're kind of flying high a little bit. So we'll see how that plays out. But Dexter needs a win, and they need a SEMO Conference win for sure, because there's not many there to be had, I don't think, for Dexter. So you got to try to get this one on the road.
Next up, I have Bernie at Puxico. That one, Puxico's homecoming, I believe, so that one should be decently fun.
Yeah, Puxico kind of handed it to Bernie in the Christmas tournament. Bernie was definitely, short a player, a couple players, honestly, and tough. They hung tough early, but just didn't have the offense that night to play with them. I'll be anxious to see how Puxico comes out and plays. Obviously, not coming off a good game against Dexter, they didn't play well. We'll see if they can remedy that. And on the flip side, Bernie, I'm anxious to see if they can play them better than they did in the Christmas tournament now that Hobgood's back. And we'll see. They're going to have to play better, obviously, than they did against Bloomfield. But they're going to have to bring their A game. But I could see an upset in this game. I mean, I would pick Puxico, but it wouldn't shock me to see a Bernie win here. So especially with the way Puxico played the other night against Dexter.
Yeah, I agree. I think the difference is going to be, if John Aycock can have just the best defensive game possible, then you need somebody else who can get points though. If Kane Hobgood can pick up threes in a clutch way that he did against Dexter, I think that's going to be a different story, but I don't know. It's Bernie has a puncher's chance at this point. Yeah,
I think for Bernie, they're going to have to get the ball inside to Aycock. They got to keep him out of foul trouble.
Yeah,
because I think he can have some success inside.
He can sneak it in there.
Yeah, Puxico's not exactly huge inside, so I think you could have some success inside. You've got to contain Burchard like Dexter did. That's going to be a key. I'm sure they'll probably play a box and one at some point. I think they did that a little bit in the Christmas tournament, so I'm sure they'll do that. Having Hobgood back is going to give them an outside threat, but we'll just see. This game. It's interesting to me to just see how they. I want to see both these teams how they come out after kind of some dud games on Tuesday.
Yeah, I do think it's funny to watch all these Stoddard County teams play each other right before the Stoddard County Tournament. So I don't want to say it's not going to be interesting to watch that tournament. Obviously, there's some hype towards it, but you are seeing a lot of matchups that it's just like, well, if you expected a close game between them, it's like that's what you want. But
right. Yeah.
Who knows? Let's go ahead and talk about Stoddard County at this point. So you are surprised by the seeding that Puxico got number 1.
I'm not necessarily surprised. I just assumed that the coaches would go with Woodland. Woodland's been very impressive all year. Puxico, not so much. Puxico's been winning. Both those teams have been winning, and so I'm sure they were pretty even, pretty close to even in the voting. It gives Woodland some motivation there, I think.
I would say so.
And I want to say Puxico may have a tougher road.
That's what I'm thinking.
Because looking at these seedings, it would not surprise me to see Dexter beat Richland in that first round. I'm not predicting it, but it wouldn't surprise me. And Dexter's already played Puxico close twice, It's hard to beat a team 3 times. You're playing at Dexter. It's going to be a better atmosphere in a semifinal game than it is just a regular season Tuesday night game.
Yep.
It wouldn't shock me to see Dexter win that game. I'm not predicting it. Not even saying it's going to happen, but it's a possibility. So that's a tough route for Puxico and Woodland. I mean, they get Bell City, which they just beat by 60 something points or whatever. I mean, they just killed them. So you get them again, and then you get a Bernie team that I think they match up very well against.
Yeah,
so
I think so too.
I still like Woodland in this tournament. I like Woodland to win this tournament, and regardless of they're the 1 or 2 seed.
Yeah, that 2 seed road seems so much easier, but I'm going to say Puxico is going to end up playing Richland. That's just my thought. I don't know. I don't foresee Dexter beating them right now. So how many times has Puxico played Richland at this point?
I guess it would be their, maybe 3rd time, I guess, maybe. But
so once again,
yeah, I don't, again, if I had to pick, I would pick Dexter over Richland, but that's today. Tomorrow, I could probably pick Richland over. We'll see how they play against New Madrid.
Yeah.
Ask me again on our weekend pod. We'll that may change, but yeah, I don't. It was so close the first time, and Dexter should have won that game at Richland. And Richland's tough to play at Richland, so I don't know. This is going to be just a fun tournament, just to sit back and watch and see where these teams, finish out. But I do think it's going to be a lot like the Christmas tournament, where we have a lot of chalk, but we have a lot of good games as we get through the process. A lot of chalk till we get to that championship game. Then I'm taking Woodland. I mean, I've said all along, I've been on Woodland's train all year long, and maybe I'm wrong, but I've been on that horse. I'm not getting off of it anytime soon.
Well, I think that's the thing is, like, for me too, I'm taking Woodland to win this, but I'll give Puxico their credit. If you can beat Woodland, be exactly who you think you are, and then I'll give you full credit there too. Is that, hey, you beat the team that I think is the best in the tournament.
Absolutely. And this is the opportunity for Puxico to show that, and Woodland for that matter, both of them, to show that, hey, they are worthy of the hype that they've been getting all year.
As far as junior varsity goes, though, because we are covering that too, do you think it's weird, and maybe this is just something like my notice, Dexter usually rules junior varsity as for Stoddard County. What do you think the disconnect comes from junior varsity to varsity? Because
a lot of times those good freshman and sophomore players have to play up on varsity on a lot of teams, where Dexter, because of their bigger classes and stuff, I think they can, they'll typically have their juniors and seniors up. Now, obviously, this year it's a little different because Dexter is playing a lot of sophomores on varsity.
Yep.
But typically that doesn't happen. Typically, Dexter is mostly juniors and seniors on varsity, and so they can let their good sophomores and stuff run, while the good sophomores for these other teams have to play up on varsity just to make them, in some cases, just to make them competitive, in other cases to try to put them over the top. So I think that's where Dexter usually has the edge in junior varsity, just because, they've got this. That's when I think a size advantage for your school really comes into play, and it comes into play against them whenever they play in the SEMO Conference SEMO Conference games, because a lot of those SEMO Conference teams play juniors on junior varsity, where Dexter's just playing their sophomore. So there's even a disconnect there, for them. So, but I think it definitely benefits them in the Stoddard County Conference tournament for sure.
It's interesting, definitely, and to watch Dexter's junior varsity. They are very good. They played very close against Bernie, but Bernie played their absolute guts out for that game. So as far as that bracket goes, I'm going to say Dexter's going to take it, but
yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they got knocked off somewhere. Woodland gave them all kinds of trouble, at the BEC earlier this year. So it wouldn't shock me to see Woodland, come out of it. Again, Woodland's never won this tournament in the varsity level. Never. Ever. And so, it would be kind of ironic to see them win both the JV and varsity. I think they've only won JV maybe once or twice, but it would be kind of ironic to see them win, sweep it.
Do you think there's some bias against Woodland at this point, just in Stoddard County in general, just because they aren't technically in Stoddard County?
I don't know. I think that probably not. I think it's just the fact that Puxco's got the most hype this year, even though Woodland is kind of coming on. Puxco came in the most hyped up team, and so I think that's kind of what probably led to the top seed, just because. And two, I mean, I think more coaches know, the Puxco program than Woodland, because they, again, they see, you're going to see Puxco a lot more, I think, than. Because they're in the Bloomfield Christmas tournament, and Woodland being in the Cape tournament, I think that would be more of your bias that way.
Sure.
I think if there was any bias, it would just be because of that. But no, I don't think there's much bias. I think, they're a good team, and I don't know what the vote was, but I'm sure it was close.
I feel like it's harder too, because how many Stoddard County teams has Woodland played this year besides Bell City and Dexter?
Yeah, I can't. I know that they beat Bernie. I know, but I think they beat Richland as well. So there's a pretty decent sample size there. I'm sure it was really close. I just I think Puxco, the fact that they won the Christmas tournament and Woodland didn't win the Christmas tournament
just
up there,
sets them ahead.
Just probably was what the deciding factor was.
No, I think it's going to be an exciting tournament. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
We've been looking forward to this one since basketball started. You mentioned it at the very start of basketball season that Stoddard County is going to be stacked this year, and they pretty much lived up to that billing.
Yeah, Stoddard County and Bootheel, both of them are just going to be some outstanding conference tournaments that I don't think people need to miss. Those are just going to be some great games, and even some of these other, even the 3-6 game. That was just a 6-point game. Bernie Bloomfield just last night. They're going to turn around and play again. Yeah. So a week later. So that's a tough. That's a tough tournament.
This will be the third time Bernie and Bloomfield have played each other.
I believe so. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it's these teams know each other so well too. They're already ultra competitive and know each other because they play each other so much over the course of the year. It just makes it even better whenever they're really good.
Yeah. All right, Dave. Any final thoughts for the week?
No, I do want to throw some football in. We saw that Brett Eckley from Jackson, he was at Jackson for a couple of years, went down to Harbear, has just been hired at Farmington as our new head football coach. So I know Farmington's not exactly SEMO, but they're SEMO Conference, and that's going to be a pretty good rivalry there for the Jackson Indians going against their former coach at Farmington. So I'm anxious to see how that plays out.
A little bit of drama there.
Little bits. I like it. I like it a lot. So.
All right, I got nothing left for you guys. So this has been the SEMO Sports Zone. We'll catch you Monday. Thank you for listening.